Come on.
Yeah, so you ain't never had no pussy like that.
Okay. I don't think that exactly worked the way I wanted it to, but such is the way my show goes. Could you even hear that? I turned the volume up to the max, but that doesn't mean that it's audible. Anyways, yes, 12 and a half years old, man. That's about how old I was when I wrote this fucking shit. Look at this little Bad Smaroo notebook. To be 12 years old again. No worries about, evils of the world and, well, actually that's not true. Bush was president then, 9/11 was the previous year. So yeah, we did have some worries, but, I didn't have all the fucking problems I have now, I don't wake up at night being all sweaty. Don't worry about your kidneys or any other fucking part of your body. Don't worry about getting cancer. Don't worry about, getting mugged on the street. You don't worry about losing your job or your place to live. You don't worry about being so fucking lonely that you might choose to just fucking leave everything behind just to not be lonely anymore. You're stuck between this fucking rock and a hard place. You don't gotta deal with all that shit when you're 12, unless you have a shitty life. If you have a shitty life, I'm not saying that's impossible, but I was blessed, okay? I was blessed. I was so fucking first worlder at the time. That doesn't mean that I was a little bitch or a little brat, okay? I just had a nice childhood, alright? A nice childhood that was, probably more common back in 2002 than it is now. But anyway, yeah, this story, man. Alright, well, how do you celebrate your good, positive childhood? I did get bullied a lot, but compared to all those fucking adult problems, like piling up, having to go to DMV, being like, gotta pay the rent, all this crap that you just want to lay in bed for like 5 days straight, You start drinking and then you worry like, oh man, am I fucking up my kidneys? Am I fucking up my liver? My stomach getting like holes in it, Is this gonna like fuck me for life? Am I gonna die early? Anyway, celebrate this good childhood by writing this depressing ass fucking stupid ass story. It's called Nothing Belongs to Me. Guess what, man? Let me tell you a little bit something about myself, okay? When I was a little kid, starting about like, I don't know, age 7, I want to say, or something like that. Like, I don't know whenever in my life that I started to learn about animal cruelty, that was the first thing that kind of fucked me up. Like, that was the first thing in life that, like, kind of got me angry for, like, continuously, And then later that turned into, like, human rights abuses, and it never really ends, unless you're totally fucking heartless, and bless the heartless, There will always be issues in the world because this world is so fucking horrible that, it's like the Garden of Eden. Like, once you fucking learn about that shit, you're never going back. So, honestly, even people with good childhoods, in a sense, is ruined pretty early on. And so be it, because if your innocence is ruined too late, you have further to fall and it's gonna fuck you up more. So you might as well lose it early. But not too early. Anyway, whatever. Basically, I was all jacked up about animal cruelty, and to me, all the animal cruelties were pretty bad, but the worst of the worst was being experimented on in labs. That's the one that really fucked me up the most, and probably went into my fear of hospitals and all that shit to this day. So, I had this book, I don't even remember, but who was the author? It was this British lady. She used all these British terms in the book, but it was like an informative book that was about every chapter was a different kind of animal cruelty. And she was just like blasting all this stuff and just telling you, and it's just one of those informative books that's kind of like, fucks up your life, But I got that at a pretty young age. I want to say I was like 9 or 10 or something, and I already knew about that shit, but it just, I just wanted that, what do you call it? I just wanted my bias reinforced or whatever, so I bought that book. Or, I guess I didn't. Maybe I bought it with some birthday money or something, or maybe I asked for it, I don't remember. Whatever. Basically, this book, after that long-ass fucking introduction, is all about humans being experimented on, which now is a really fucking common topic, I feel like, or more common than it was back then. Maybe I just didn't know shit because I was a little kid. But, like, I feel like now it's more common and there's a lot of movies about that because it's fucking terrifying. Nobody wants that shit to happen to them, But at the time when I wrote this, I had not read anything about humans being experimented on. I've only read things about animals being experimented on, and the main book was probably The Plague Dogs, even though that book is kind of, like, far out there. But, it's a good book, like, it's interesting. It's not, like, the most informative book about, like, animal rights or anything, but it's just a good novel, So, I think this was a little inspired by that. Anyway, 6.5 minutes, man. Let's get on with it after that long intro. Oh, I gotta show you this fucking, picture, man. Look at this shit. And keep in mind, this is 2002, okay? So this is, like, the center of... Can you even see that? This is, like, the center of emo culture. All the striped socks, the not leg warmers, the arm warmers, the, like, anime-inspired outfits, fucking My Chemical Romance. You remember all that shit, man? Like, American Idiot just came out. Man. What a nostalgic time, man. Anyway, I don't know if you can see this. It's like a fucking dead rat with a bunch of flies on it. Oh, and then it has a little tag. I think the tag says, like, I'm alive or something like that. Ugh, what a horrifying thought. Anyway, part 1 is Krishna, which I remember that I didn't even think about that until just now, but I realized that's the name of the lab they're in. And you know what's really funny is that is totally inspired. No, this is fucking corny. It's gonna be 10 minutes before I even get in the story, but this has so much history to it for me, like, you just don't even know. Anyway, Krishna, which is apparently the name of the laboratory. Ugh, this wig is so itchy, it drives me insane. That is totally inspired by the shittiest movie ever, the fucking, remake of, Planet of the Apes, the Mark Wahlberg one. Remember? And, like, spoiler alert, but this movie is so fucking horrible. This is, like, the one good moment, is that, like, there's this, like, the Forbidden Zone is called Kalima, but then when he finally gets there, it's this sign with, like, some dust on it, and he wipes off the dust, and it says, "Caution live animals," so that was, like, when, I guess that's, like, the ground zero where all the apes were let out or whatever. So that's the, and it totally makes sense that would be the Forbidden Zone. It kind of makes more sense than, like, I don't know. I don't want to say that it makes more sense than the original, but it does make sense that if that was the old lab, that even now that it was all desecrated and had been abandoned for, like, years, like, they still wouldn't want to go back there because it would, like, remind them, It's an intergenerational trauma or whatever you want to call that shit. And there's a part in the movie where this side character, somebody, I can't remember, is talking about they want to get their child, and this is an ape talking, because Planet of the Apes, and, like, they're talking about how they want to get their kid a pet human, and then, which is, I mean, like, we don't keep apes as pets, like, they'll fucking destroy your house, or as my friend says, they'll rip your nuts off. I think that's, like, a quote from something, I don't remember, but, anyway, then they talk about getting the human, they're like, you have to get a kid for a pet, but they're like, if you get a girl, make sure that you, get rid of her before she hits puberty, or some shit like that. It was like some fucking joke. Some fucking, like, puberty joke, But, like, anyways, it is almost 10 minutes, so let's get started. Chapter 1 is called Cages. California lay on the cold floor, the blood on her face smeared and dry, and listened. To To her left was the ceaseless whining of Habry. In the pitch black of the block, California couldn't help thinking that there had to be a dog in the block with them to make such a terrible noise. Habry with a slashed throat. To her right was Livell, shivering and shuddering in his own wet nightmare. Ugh. I don't think I meant it like that, but, you know. He was still drenched with salty water. California lay on the cold floor, her eyes wide open and seeing nothing for the dark. She crept inside herself and blocked out Livell's shivering and Habry's whining. Will I still be alive by morning? When the sun comes up, will I see it? Will Habry go silent or Livell go still? How much longer? They were in the east block of Karichna, which meant they caught the morning rays of the sun. I'm surprised there's any fucking windows at all. Then they would stretch and wake and talk amongst themselves until someone came and threw their breakfast into their cages, and, as California thought over her thoughts for the next day, she was asleep. Tomorrow, I want to start 5:19 on a new endurance test. A cold shiver ran through the young man, making his skin prickle. The older man noticed his fear. Is there anything wrong? No, it's just, yes, go on. It's just that, isn't 5:19 a little dangerous? That's why she's on the endurance test. Yes, but I'm sure you'll do fine. Don't worry so much. So is this guy like pitting his own employees against these captive people? Yes, sir. So it's settled. Yes, sir. Good. Hey, and no fucking descriptions yet, but we'll see. We'll see. The next morning, California woke as the first rays of sun flashed over her eyes. She licked her hands and wiped the dry blood from last night off her mouth. No one else was up yet, a rare time. California was often the last in the block to awake. She looked around her. Habry was gone from her cage. She had probably been taken in the night, or earlier that morning. Livell was curled up in a small damp ball in the corner of his cage. California looked across from her. From herself, I guess means. There was a boy about her age. He had a sort of black hood over his eyes and ears. California had seen him before. His name was Johnny Butterclip. I remember this guy. He was gonna have his own story, but didn't happen. But just Butterclip to everyone else, and 121 to the workers of Karichna. He had, oh, here we go. I would take a drink, but I am like taking a break from the drinks because they were fucking, like, you just have to take a break sometimes. I felt like they were destroying my body. Anyway, he had dirty blonde hair and a rather strong and lean look to him, though physically he was scrawny. What does that fucking mean? He's scrawny, but he's strong and lean. Those don't go together. But maybe that's just how California sees him because she thinks he's hot. He's not new, but I never talked to him before. But then she saw something else that made her think. He had a tattoo of barbed wire around his arm. It was just a small thing, but it made California think. Think back. What was her life like before she came to Karichna? All she could remember was home for disturbed children. Of course. Just the sound of the name made her want to cry out, "You lying, sugarcoating bastards! What kind of shit are you trying to pull?" Maybe she had blanked out her mind for a reason. Maybe her former life was too horrible to remember. Worse than this shit? Maybe they're comparable badness. See, that's the thing about when you're in middle school, especially when you're in middle school during the emo age. I mean, I don't know, like every fucking generation probably has their own version of this shit. But, you know, when you're a middle schooler and you want to write a story and you want it to be all like dark and twisted, like it's just funny because like you want to write dark and twisted shit, but you don't really have like the worldly knowledge to really write something dark and shitty and twisted. Unless you do, but I don't know, whatever. If you're an average fucking piece of shit like me, I'm talking very broad strokes here, okay? So, yes, if you're fucking, you know, this amazing artist who came from like a unbelievably horrible background and you knew things like 20 years beyond your age. But still, as a fucking child, a little middle schooler, I mean, you can be a prodigy, but I think most middle schoolers aren't that great of writers, you know? And it's just kind of funny when you want to write something so fucked, but like, it comes out like half fucked, and middle schoolers have access to fucked shit. Like you can watch fucked up movies, you can read fucked up books, you probably have a couple of fucked up friends, at least. And if you live in a fucked up neighborhood, it's even better. So I mean, you know what I mean. So you have access to that shit, but it's just like the middle school like processing, like mental processing, I think is not all there usually. I don't want to be one of these scientist assholes who tells people what they're capable of for them instead of asking people who you don't even know. I hate it when people are just like, no, research says that you can't reach this until a certain age, so I don't care what you tell me about your life. My numbers are right and your lived experience is wrong. Like, I fucking hate people that are just so arrogant like that. But so I think there's always room for exceptions. Obviously, I'm trying to make as many exceptions as I can, you know. But, you know, just generally speaking, if you're your average fucking piece of shit, not worth extra attention, fucking stupid kid, like, yeah, you might want to write something deep and meaningful, but it's just like, it just comes off all weird and half-baked. It's like when you put some, like, cookies that are burned on one side and raw on the other, you know? But anyways, alright, by now everyone was starting to wake up, stretching and yawning in the morning sun. Butterclip sniffed the air and retreated back into the shadows. California looked around her at her blockmates, her friends. Livell was scratching the side of his head with rapid movements of his forepaw. I think she means his hand, but I like to put animal names in there because I'm a fucking furry, and I was even back then. If anything, I was more of one back then. He was small and wiry with a rugged look. His hair was a dirty, rusty color, in sharp contrast with his pastel blue eyes. In California's opinion, he and Habry were treated the worst of all of them for Livell's small size and Habry's mild disposition. See, that's why you get fucked if you're either just physically small or if you're too nice. Because the world's a fucking asshole, and they'll take advantage of you. Val was on the other side of Habry's cage. She was a Spanish girl and the only one in the block whose skin hadn't been turned pale from living in a building for years. Okay. I don't know, is that racist? I don't know. I think, well, I'm not gonna comment. She was as bold as a raven and as mean as a shrew. Every new intern always feared her and always returned her to her cage with bites on his arms, scratches on his face. So they were only implying male interns here? Or blood coming from somewhere in his mouth. Val was a bitch, but she was the only one who took a stand. Surprised that she's not just, like, dead, but, like, they probably don't want to kill, like, their experiments, you know? But, like, they don't have any of those fucking tasers or anything like that. Anyway, and each one of these fucking people is, like, inspired by something. But I think I'll say that in another video, because I'm running out of time. 2 cages from Butterclip was Skippy. Skippy was California's first friend. I forgot all about Skippy, holy shit. First friend in the block, and so considered to be her best. Skippy was also very strange. She was the only one in the block who was really crazy. All the rest of them acted strangely and sort of like wild animals, but they were still able to think. Skippy was just ... weird. One moment she could be quiet as Butterclip, or she could be frenzied like Val, but never on purpose. She just was. Oh, she's so woke and so deep. She's just mindful all the time. You know what? I honestly feel like being mindful all the time is hell. Like, okay, let me go on a little mindfulness rant. I'm at 20 minutes. But let me go on a little fucking rant here, okay? I know I hardly read any of the story, but it was mostly personal story, which honestly is the real reason for my show, isn't it? So whatever. What was I gonna say? Oh right, mindfulness. Okay. I was so mindful I totally forgot what I was saying. Anyways, mindfulness, look. Mindfulness is not evil, okay? Mindfulness is fine. It's fine, and in the beginning, when people hadn't thought about it yet, pretty much, unless they're all, ahead of the curve, when the average fucking piece of shit human, American, first world, or whatever you want to fucking call it, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Just, I need a word for this, the average, the normies, okay? There already is a word for it, thank you, fucking internet. Okay. When the fucking normies first heard of mindfulness, I'm sure it was great because I gave it a chance. But I think at this point it is mostly for a certain type of person, and that's why you see a certain type of person getting into it. It's these white collar people who pretty much have everything they need in life, including like human companionship. They got family, they got friends, they got romantic interest, because they're normies, Normies don't suffer for shit like that. You pretty much have whatever you need, Maybe not a lot of it, maybe not in luxury or anything like that, but you got what you need, They have all these white collar jobs and they're just working their ass off and they're like, even some blue collar people, I'm sure. You just gotta be a workaholic, and these people who just like, work and money is all that's on their mind, they're just trying to make it, people that try to get ahead. For me, getting ahead is not even an option. It's not even on the table, because I don't want it. If I wanted it, I would put it in priority. But for somebody like me, I just want to fucking pay my bills and stay ahead of debt, I just don't want to be in debt. I just want to pay for everything I need. I don't want to fucking get ahead. That's too much fucking work. I want to put energy into making videos, writing stories, and going on hikes and shit. I want to do as little fucking work at work as I can fucking get away with. So anyways, but for these people that they're all about the money, they're all about getting ahead, they're all about work, they want promotion, right? And that could be any industry pretty much. The hustle people. Okay, I could see how mindfulness is good for them, because they have so much shit going on. They're probably on their phones like 91% of the day, and I'm sure mindfulness is great for them. But for somebody like me, look man, I'm isolated. I'm separated from things. This fucking coronavirus, quarantine, oh my god. Like a year ago, I was laughing about corona. I'm like, that shit's never gonna fucking blow up. And I remember a customer in my store, this fucking fatalist, came in, and he was like, I hope the coronavirus comes over here and kills a bunch of people, because I think the population needs to be reduced. And I was just like, here's your receipt, bye, But, I never thought it would really blow up this fucking big, and I still think it's a big fucking conspiracy, but I'm not gonna get into that shit. Anyway, the point is, there's already, for somebody like me, who is isolated and cut off, and trying to do social things, but it's really hard when people don't fucking call or text you back, then there's already kind of like not enough for me to think about. My mind is not occupied enough, and then my fucking anxiety goes all fucking crazy and goes all over the fucking place. Oh my god, I was listening to this great podcast today. It's called Black Stage. It's part of Wisecrack, I think, whatever, that website. That they have a bunch of good shit. I like them. And one of the things on there is Black Stage. It's funny. It's pretty chill. I mean, sometimes I honestly got a little bored with it, but it's good. It's good, okay? And they had a guest on, and he was like, he was saying how, like, when he's just, like, alone by himself and not, like, occupying himself with anything, he's like, oh yeah, that's when all my anxious thoughts come out, and they're like, we got the place to ourselves. Like, oh my god, I related to that so fucking much. I don't remember what the dude's name was. Oh, actually, I think it was Rick Wood or something like that. Anyway, I just related to that so fucking much. I'm just like, I don't need mine. I get so pissed at the store when I see fucking all these magazines talking about how to not think. I already can't think enough. Like, my mind is already blank too much of the fucking day. When I'm walking to work, when I'm fucking at work, when I'm sitting at home with nothing to do, when I pick up a pen and a piece of paper and I write like 2 words, and then I'm like, I ain't got nothing else. And it's like, and I just I feel like a fucking zombie, and I don't need any more fucking mindfulness. I need more distractions. All those people that are too overworked and shit, they need to give me some of their stimulation, and I'll relieve them of it. It'll be like that fucking Ren and Stimpy episode where they like try to put some of Stimpy's fat into Ren. But anyway, that's the end. I'm gonna read more of the story. I'll get more into it, and I'll tell you who all the different characters are based off of and shit like that, because they're all definitely except for Livel. I don't remember who the fuck or if Livel is supposed to be based off anybody. He might just be there because I liked redheads when I was in middle school. Everybody else, except for California and Skippy, I think they're just supposed to be kind of just like every girls, But, everybody else is from, or like inspired by something. So anyways, 26 minutes, I better cut it off or it's gonna take like 3 hours.